Okay, so I want to introduce you to our team real quick. For those of you that are freshman parents, you will work with, of course, you were working with Mrs. Punch. She's in the back, Mrs. Punch. Mrs. Punch joined us this year, so if you have sophomores or juniors, then you didn't work with her, but she is now a part of our team, and she has fit right in. Maybe we have a lot of fun, so maybe too much. I have 10, 11, 12 with last names A through G. Mrs. Kirk has last names H through N. Mr. Morgan has last names O through Z. And then Mrs. Rosinski is our Learning Center coordinator, and she works with 9 through 12, any student that has any special learning needs. And the cool thing about Ms. Rosinski is she stays with the kids all 4 years, and she works in conjunction with all of us. So it's a real strong team approach. I want to start you off with just one thing, and I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kirk. As we do this tonight, it's hard to do course selection and talk about all of our options when we have so many different kinds of kids here at Knoxville Catholic. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about our school is we are incredibly diverse. We have all kinds of learners, we have all kinds of needs, and we really do meet those needs very, very well. But as we talk today, remember, hear what I'm saying and translate it to your child. Your child has individual needs, they have individual strengths, so we're going to be giving you lots of options. Don't think that they need to do all of those options. You know, some of our upper level requirements are not fit for everybody. And at the end of the day, we want our kids to be happy, healthy, holy. That's what we want. We want them alive. And regular teenagers, we don't want to push them too hard. So please, as we go through today, hear the message that this is an individualized process. Also, I want you guys to know that it's such an important process. We spend so much time on course selection. We spend a month and a half just talking about this process because we believe in it so much. At public school, sometimes this is handled through a computer system. The kids log on, they see what classes they are recommended to, and it's done. We talk about it a lot. So we're starting with you guys, and then we'll keep on that process a little bit. I also want to say through all of this, we really hinge on teacher recommendations as a part of this process. And if Mr. Somperak or Ms. Walker were here, they would urge you to trust the teacher's judgment. I know your little kids are so awesome, but our teachers see them every day for lots of hours. And if they recommend them to a certain level, we want you to trust that they're seeing something that will make them successful at that level. And it's hard, and conversations are always okay, but we want you just to reiterate that we really drive a lot of this on teacher recommendation, and we support those. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kirk.
Thank you all for coming tonight. This information is so important. It is a very important part of what we do all year. It's what makes the year successful, is making sure that we get placements right. So I'm happy that we're starting with you, and hopefully you can reinforce some of this stuff at home. So the first, to start the process, you have to really understand the levels that we have, okay? So we have college preparatory, which you'll hear CP. We have two different groups of those. We have regular CP classes, and then we have non-designated classes. And those classes are just taught a little bit differently, but they have the same content. College preparatory classes will absolutely prepare your student for life after Knoxville Catholic. For the students that need a little bit of an extra challenge, we have honors courses. And then those that are ready for a college curriculum, we have advanced placement classes. Also, you'll hear us say AP a lot, so that's what that means. Not every single class has all levels. All students will not take all levels. This is, again, you'll hear individualized process so many times. But I think that this is just a great example of one other way that your student does get individualized attention here at Catholic. This process works really well for us. So the selection factors that we use, first and foremost, it really is the grade requirement. We're going to look at that prerequisite class and what they scored in that class. We think that that grade really does tell a true story of what they can do. And I know that sometimes they need opportunities to bump up. So we don't leave it at just the grades. We do pay a lot of attention to what the teachers have to say about your students, and we pay attention to what we think their ability level is, and also their work ethic. What is their willingness to work and work harder in these classes? Okay, so individualized process, we base it on your students' grades, on their teachers' opinions, and then that is individualized to the different classes as well. So just because your student is in honors math, that does not mean that they have to be in honors English. Vice versa. We're going to look for their strengths, and that's where we want them to challenge themselves. Okay, I'll warn you about a couple of different things. When you're choosing your levels, we want you to choose very wisely. We put a lot of attention into this process, and we have a lot of faith in where we place your student. So in the fall, when you come back, we don't do a lot of level changing at that point. So if you have a question about the level that your student is being placed in, we want you to go ahead and address that now. Have your student talk to the teacher. If you want to come in and speak with the counselor, we're happy to have those conversations, but we want to go ahead and handle how you're feeling about that level before the fall. Also, please don't choose the classes based on the teacher. You would be surprised at some of the kids' faces when they sign up for a class with one certain teacher and they come back and they feel like it's a teacher with a much harder reputation. And no, we don't let them out for that. So we want to make sure that they really enjoy the topic that they're studying and not choosing the class because they think it's going to be easier for a certain teacher. Okay, so this is the course selection timeline. We're going to start on Monday. We start with the AP application meeting. It's in the gym, and we have all the students who are interested to come in. We'll teach them how to fill out the applications. They'll have an opportunity to talk to AP teachers. There are some students that have taken AP classes, and we'll have opportunities for them to speak and for them to ask questions. The due date will be February 6th. And they will turn those applications into their teachers. February 9th, we'll have our course selection meetings, and again, we bring all the students in by grade into the gym, and we run over kind of what we're telling you all today, a little bit more specific about all the classes and getting the right recommendations. Students research, they'll get their course selection books, and they can research the classes that they want to take. All of us will go into English classes as well, so they'll get to hear it again. We want them to hear it many times. Let's see. February 24th, those AP notification letters will come out. We start with the AP process because we want them to have those classes that they're admitted to. We want them to have that information, before the course selection week. Course selection starts on February 28th. We are all going to be available that week if you need to meet or make phone calls to talk about your students' course selection. And how that week actually works is they'll get a form. So they'll be coming home with a form. Mr. Morgan will talk a little bit more about that later. But they will sit down individually, face-to-face with each of their teachers and talk about what level they should be in. Please encourage your students to, at that moment, to talk to the teacher about the level that they would like to be in, so they can have a conversation about that. Forms will be due on March 7th, and you'll have a place to sign on that form and send that back in with your student. Okay, so the AP application process is pretty simple. We want them to apply to any AP class that they're interested in, even if they think they might take it. If they go ahead and apply to it, then later they'll still have the opportunity to take it if they need to switch things up for some reason. So you'll see what courses you get into, and then that will help them plan during course selection week. Here are all our AP offerings. Just to note, French and Latin and Spanish, all of our languages do not require an application. The teacher works with them individually, so they will not need that application. Micro and Macro is actually 2 AP classes taught in 1 year, and at the end of the year they will have 2 AP exams, so that's an extra chance for some college credit. Here's a list of all the AP teachers that will be responsible for those applications. And that's in your handout, and your student will receive that as well. Okay, so it starts out with the kids will either ask the teacher for an AP application, or they can go to RenWeb in resource documents and download that application. Every application is going to need a teacher recommendation, so you can kind of enforce at home, just kind of ask them, have you done that? They need to do that early on. The application's only out for a week, so you want to make sure the teachers have time to do good recommendations for the students. Distribute the required teacher recommendation forms, complete the applications, and any required essays. These applications are not difficult. I mean, they're not overwhelming for the student. They can easily do as many that they need to. Return the application to that specific teacher that's listed on that list by February 6th, and then we will send out the notifications. No parent overrides, and if anybody has had any experiences with overrides, we do not allow that for AP courses. We leave that completely up to the teacher. If your student is waitlisted or denied to an AP course, your student can go back and talk to that teacher, but let them handle that process. It doesn't work well when the parent emails, but sometimes things can happen if the student handles that. Okay, so your final schedule, how do you put all that together? So we want all of them challenging themselves. We get that, but we also want you to consider extracurricular activities and everything that's going on in the student's life other than their classwork. Do they handle stress well? We want you to consider that before we get them overloaded with a lot of classes. Definitely, highly selective schools are looking for APs and honors level courses, and we want to support your student in doing that when they can handle that, but we just want to make it a good, healthy balance. Okay, here's Ms. Coy.
Okay, guys. This part is intense, but I promise you I'm going to wow you with my dazzling personality and try and entertain you along the way. We have graduation requirements up here. Really, we put this up here. You guys do not need to worry about this too much. We monitor it all along. So we just want you to see what they are. The students will be aware of them. We have them on their course selection forms, but we check graduation requirements 3 times. So we make sure that all of our students are good to go. And, I forgot to ask this earlier. How many of you here are freshman parents? Raise your hands. Awesome. How many of you are sophomore parents? How many of you are junior parents? Yay, okay, so a pretty good mix. Definitely freshman parents are the most, as you should be. This is your first time going through the process here at Knoxville Catholic. So for my junior parents, when your student brings their form home this year, the top of it, we put what graduation requirements they still need. So it's another check. And then when they come back in August, we check it again, and then we check it again at Christmas. So just want you to kind of know about that. This is going to be a slideshow, the grade level distribution. You guys, of course, don't need to know freshman year, but for my freshman parents in the room, this is what sophomore year is going to look like. They're going to take Religion 2, the mission of Christ in the church, math, science, English 2, foreign language, world history. And then they'll have some electives to play with, and it's nice. We want them to enjoy those electives. But it's a pretty cut and dry schedule for our sophomores. Our juniors will take morality and sacraments, math, science, English, U.S. history. And kind of for the first time, they get a little bit of say in choices for their core classes. They'll get to choose whether they want to keep going in a language or not, and they get to choose what science they take. So my sophomores get kind of excited because they finally have a choice. And then seniors will take Christian vocation and apologetics, English 4, government, economics, math. And again, they'll also have some more electives to play with. And some of your students will fill those with core classes, and some of them will take electives. And we'll talk about that in a second. The bottom line, you're going to hear us say this a lot. I think this is already the 3rd time we've said it. This is an individualized process. Your child should follow their strengths. I think a lot of our kids come from out of middle school to us feeling like they need to be the best at everything. And what we tell them in high school is, no, you don't. You got to be the best at what you're the best at. and try your best at the rest of it. But you don't have to be the best at everything. And that kind of rocks their world a little bit. So we like to give the parents that message so you know that's what we're saying. Because I see a lot of kids who are super strong in science and math and hate English and social studies. And they don't need to kill themselves in those areas if that's not a strength for them. So just keep in mind they need to be pursuing their strength areas. If they're pushing forward in science and math, it's okay to pull back in English and social studies, or vice versa. And then we've got our eclectic kids who they maybe love everything or maybe they love nothing, right? It's kind of a good mix. And those we just need to say, like one time I had a student say, I don't love anything. And I said, well, what do you hate the least, you know? And he was like, I know what you're doing. Well, we got there, and I said study hall is not an option, because that was his first option. So what I'm going to do on these next screens is I want to talk to you about what our options are in each of our core areas. But remember, at Knoxville Catholic High School, a student will get a course selection form. They will take that form to every single teacher, and the teacher is going to recommend them to a level. We like you to know what levels are out there. That's what this is going to be about. So sophomore year, we have English 2, English 2 CP, English 2 Honors, and English 2 Combined Studies Honors. So what I want you to know about Combined Studies Honors, it is a class that they enroll in. They have to enroll in English Combined Studies and World History Combined Studies, and those two classes are taught together. They are taught in sequence. They go through a certain historical period, and they will be reading what was written during that historical period. So like, oh, we understand why it's so dark and depressing literature, because this is what was going on in the history. It's a great course. It's awesome for my students who just love English and history. Our history portion of it is pretty interactive, and they do a lot of projects. It's a great class. So you might say, well, what's the difference between English 2 Honors and English 2 Combined Studies? In Combined Studies, you have to sign up for the world history part. For my students who don't love history, I mean, they might like it, but they don't love it. Maybe they don't want to do an honors class in world history. That's why we have English 2 Honors. Some students, that's just all they want to do, is the English 2 Honors piece of it. Okay, so that's the difference between those two. Junior year, their options are going to be English 3 CP, Honors, or AP. We do want to let you guys know that we have started a course. We started 2 years ago. It's an English Enrichment class. This is something that students are recommended to by the English teachers. So we do an assessment in the spring. It's a great process. All students and sophomores, all sophomores are given a writing assessment, and it's anonymously graded by 2 different teachers, so there's no bias there. And they will recommend kids to this English Enrichment class. It's a support class. It goes into writing at a much deeper level, and it's not, and I've had a lot of parents say, well, I want my kid to take that. It's only if they need it that we want them to take this class. It's taught alongside our English 3 CP. It's not taught instead of. It's an additional class that they'll have, and it's really, really good. We've really seen some really positives come out of there, a lot of good stuff that's going on. Then we get to senior year, English 4 CP Honors, Dual Enrollment Honors, or AP. A lot of my rising senior parents will say, should my student do Dual Enrollment Honors or should they do AP? Well, let's talk about what Dual Enrollment Honors is first. It is a class that is taught at Pellissippi. It is not here on campus. The student will dually enroll at Knoxville Catholic, and they will also enroll at Pellissippi College. They will take the class at Pellissippi. They have to drive themselves there, they have to find a parking spot, they have to walk in the rain, and they have to get to class. It's awesome. They get to choose all of those details. They might take a night class, a Monday night class. They might have afternoon activities, so they might take a morning class. We have to have our students take the Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. And if they do that, then if they take the night class, then they do not have an A block. If they take the Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, they'll go to Pellissippi, and when it's done, they just have to be here by the time the second block starts. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they don't have class, they don't have to be here in A block, they get late arrival kind of every day, which is really sweet for them. They still tend to have time to go through Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, so clearly it's not a big struggle to get here. It's an awesome class, but it's totally taught at Pellissippi. We don't have control over the grading. We don't have control. We don't have extenuating circumstances forms for them to fill out for attendance. It is totally taught at Pellissippi. You have to meet these requirements. You have to have had the ACT by April. You have to have a 3.0. You have to have an 18 on English and a 19 on reading. Those are things that are set by Pellissippi, not us. Okay, so there's no bending on that. Should you take dual enrollment honors or AP? It depends. A lot of our questions are always going to be, it depends. And the next thing I usually say, what are you thinking about for your career? What are you thinking about for college? Because if you're looking at top tier or selective schools, then I'm always going to lean towards the AP side. If you're thinking about in-state, or a public school, University of South Carolina, UGA, something like that, then dual enrollment might be the way to go because it's guaranteed college credit. If you get an A or B, a C, that's going to go on to college for you, which could be really a good thing. So it really will depend, the answer for each of your students, which is a better fit for you. Some students don't want to do the college class. They definitely don't want to do AP, and so they might choose to stay here on campus and do English 4 honors. That makes sense? Okay, slow nods. All right. And Mr. Morgan's going to talk about the electives in just a minute, so we won't cover those. Social studies. So my freshmen in the room finally get to have social studies back in their world. They will take world history CP. They will take combined studies, or they have 2 AP options, world history AP, European history AP. Students will ask me, which one should I take? And I say, read the course description book. Whichever one sounds cooler is the one that you should take. They're 2 very different contents taught by 2 different teachers, but really there's not a difference one way or the other. It's just about which content does a student line up with better. Lots of good options. If they take it their sophomore year, it will fulfill their world history credit. We've had some students who aren't ready for an AP sophomore year, so you can actually come back and pick up that world history or Euro anytime later. So it's not a one-time and one-shot deal. They can come and pick it up anytime. And then for junior year, you have to take economics to graduate. It's offered at 2 levels, CP or AP. For CP, it's a semester-long class. For AP, it's a year-long class. The year-long class, Micro, Macro, Economics AP, is a cool option because it's a 2-for-1. It's 2 AP courses taught during one block here at Knoxville Catholic. So they will go through one class here at Catholic, and at the end, they will sit for 2 exams, the Micro AP exam and the Macro AP exam. So they could get 6 hours of college credit just taking one class here at Knoxville Catholic. So it's a pretty cool deal. That can be taken junior or senior year. A lot of times we're telling our sophomores right now, be thinking about their junior and senior year because you kind of have to start strategizing. When should I take this? When should I take that? That might be some students take Econ CP their junior year so they can open up a half credit for something else their senior year. So sometimes that comes into play. Junior year, they have to take U.S. history, so all of our juniors are in U.S. history, either CP, honors, or AP. And then senior year, we've got government. CP and honors is a semester, whereas our AP is all year. And so sometimes that's a determining factor. Should I take Gov honors or should I take Gov AP? And my answer is going to be, how much room do you have in your schedule? How many other APs do you have? Can you handle that? Do you want that? Kind of looking at those factors. Science. So everybody's in biology this year, freshmen. Freshmen will be recommended to one of 2 things, physical science or chemistry. We started doing this about 2-3 years ago, and we've had great success. We found some students who were not ready, particularly with the math portion of chemistry, and so we want them to be in Algebra 2, have a year of Algebra 2, and take chemistry their junior year. So students will be recommended to physical science, CP, or chemistry 1 CP, chemistry 1 honors. That's pretty cut and dry. We do have an additional science course that sophomores can take, biology AP. I'm crunching on the last part of my mint. A cool little fact about bio AP, it's also a fact about stats AP, that used to not be offered to sophomores. But one of our students, just one, read the course description book. It's never been read before by a student, I don't think. But she read it and she came to us and said, hey, I qualify for all of these requirements except for the grade level. Why can't I take this class? And we didn't have an answer for her. So we opened it up to our sophomores. They can take either, they can only take 2 APs. We only max our sophomores at 2 APs, and I feel very strongly about that. They should not take more than 2. Biology AP, you can get accepted to that as a sophomore. Also, what can happen is Mr. LaForest can say, I will accept you, but I think you will have a better chance of scoring better on the AP exam if you wait a year or 2. So the kids are like, well, that's a rejection. No, it's just let's wait and see a little bit. We like to call that a deferment, right? So Bio AP, very few sophomores take it, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, I think is the most we've ever had in there, but it is an option I want you to be aware of. And then junior year, yay, they finally have options. So my students who are in physical science will head to chemistry, because chemistry is a state graduation requirement. They have to have that to graduate. And then everyone else will get to pick what they want. And students will say, well, what should I take? And I'm going to say, well, what do you like, right? They're all very different. If you hate math, then I don't want you thinking about physics, because that might be a tough fit for you, right? And so we have these listed here. And they're somewhat in kind of easier to harder levels, but environmental science CP, study of the environment, and everything that's entailed with that, how pollution affects water systems, plants, bugs, all of those things. Ecology honors is that same content, but just stepped up a level, taught at a higher level. Oceanography is much more than just, hey, dolphins are cool, as they all think when they sign up for that class. It is all things ocean. It is the chemistry, the chemical makeup of the ocean, the plate tectonics, the geology, is everything in the ocean. Physiology CP or honors is an incredible class. It's the study of the human body. There's a lot of skills that are learned there that can be transferred to a lot of other subjects. It's a great critical thinking class. They do a lot of memorizing, but also understanding how the systems of the body interact. So it's a great option. Then we get into physics. We have CP or honors, chemistry, Chem 2 honors or AP, and then our biology and physics. I want to tell you sophomore parents in the room, your students are in chemistry right now. If they are thinking about Chem 2 honors or they're thinking about Chem AP, a lot of times it's easier to follow Chem to Chem. So sophomore year to junior year. Doesn't have to happen that way. Every year we have 3 or 4 seniors who will come back and pick it up. Students are trying to decide, should I take honors or should I take AP? Dr. Kearse always says, if you like chemistry, take Chem 2 honors. If you love it, take Chem AP. And if you don't take Chem 2, right? Like that's the bottom line. It's a hard class, but it's great. Any of my students who are considering the medical field, it gives a great exposure to organic chemistry principles, which is the weed out class in college. So having been exposed to that now is great. But again, sometimes my juniors aren't ready for that, so they might want to come back and pick it up senior year, and that's okay. Our physics class is great. We have 4 levels really, physics CP, honors, and then 2 APs. There are some math requirements that go along with that. They have to be in a certain math level, and you guys will read that in the course description book when those come home with your students on February 9th. This is the hardest slide, so if we can get through this, I promise y'all can make it, okay? Math is tough, not really. I mean, it was for me, but math, they just follow this sequence. They're in Algebra 1, they're in Algebra 2, they're in Geometry, they're in Pre-Cal, then they usually go to a couple different places. So my freshman parents in the room, you look at that 10th grade column and see where their options are. There's that statistics AP. Again, didn't used to be open to sophomores, but now it is. But if a student's going to take stats AP as a sophomore, I want to make sure that they have their junior and senior year maths planned out, because if they need that credit later, we want to leave that there. You have to have 4 years of math, not 4 credits of math. So we have had some students who take pre-cal a sophomore year, and they take calculus junior year, and they don't like it. So that's why sometimes I like to reserve that stats class for senior year. Junior year, they'll take geometry or pre-cal or stats or calc. They can take calc honors and then calc AP. It's kind of like that Chem 2. Oh, I didn't say that. Let me say that. Go back and say that. Chem 2, you can take Chem 2 honors and then take Chem 2 AP the next year. It can be taken like that. They have to really love chemistry because that's 3 years of chemistry, right? But that can also happen with our Calculus Honors class. They can take Calc Honors their junior year, Calc AP their senior year if they want. Senior year, we have a lot of options: Stat CP, college algebra, which goes back over everything they've learned in high school because we want them to be successful at the college level. We don't want them to be in remedial math if we can avoid it. And also, those two classes together are awesome. And I have a lot of students who are heading into their senior year and they tell me they hate math. And I say, well, have you thought about doubling up on Stat CP in college algebra? You know, and they think I'm crazy. Like, no, I just told you I hate math. I don't want to take 2 math classes. But those 2 classes are great. You know, a lot of majors will be exposed to statistics. I was very sad that as a psychology major, I had to take statistics. But I wish I would have had those principles just at least glossed over in high school. So sometimes our senior year, students who are looking to strengthen their schedule and they don't want to take honors or AP can strengthen their schedule by taking 2 maths, a Stat CP and a college algebra, or a Stats Honors and a Pre-Cal, something like that. Our math department does an incredible job tracking kids, so they will really recommend them to this. We just, again, want you to know what your options are. Our language options. We have Spanish, French, and Latin. Much to some kids' dismay, you are required to take 2 years of the same language. Okay, that is required. So if you're in a language now and you don't like it, you got to stay in it. You'll learn to love it, hopefully, by the end of the second year. But the way our classes work, we have Spanish 1, 2, 3, French 1, 2, 3. You'll see on that 3rd year level, we have 3 CP and 3 honors. 3 CP in the languages world is always a terminal course. So it is built for the student who wants to just have 1 more year of language but doesn't want to go past that. We typically encourage that. Most of our students are going to take language in college, so as long as we can keep their ear and their mind in the language, the better they will do potentially when they get to college and they get to that language placement exam. So that's an important factor. If they can just get through 1 more year, then sometimes that's a great option for them. But also, you guys, not everybody needs to keep going. So if your student, if it's been a struggle for 2 years, it's probably been a struggle for the student, it's been a struggle for you. It's also okay just to let that go. Okay, so this is an area that's really an individual answer by the kid. You know, it's not a global, should they keep going? I don't know. You know, what's their experience been like? Have they fought hard to have a C? Well, maybe not. Maybe we can find some other areas where they'll be successful. So they don't have to keep going in this world, but the longer they can stay in it, the more successful they'll be in college. That's what we're hoping for. If they have any hopes of getting to Spanish 4 or AP or French AP, they've got to go into that 3 honors class. So 3 honors is the only way to get to higher level. So one big distinction we want to make sure that you know about. Students can switch languages. So if they're in 2 years of something and they want to try something else, they just have to apply for that. They'll talk to their language teacher. The reason is they'll be a junior going into largely freshman classes, and we have some expectations. They got to be good. They got to be role models. They can't mess around. So there is a little bit, we make them jump through a little bit of a process because we need them to set the bar. And that's good. And that happens every year. And we have some students who'll do more than 1 language at one time, and they can do that too. We have some students who'll pick that up junior, senior year. All right, lifetime wellness is a 1.5 credit. All of your students will take they'll take health. Everyone will take health. And then you have a whole other credit that you have to earn. There's 2 ways to earn that credit. One of them has to be on campus. They will take either PE, weight training, or dance to earn that PE credit. And then for that additional credit, this is a state graduation requirement, that is earned outside of the classroom. And that's done a couple different ways. It can be earned through a KCHS sport, varsity, or club. Or it can be earned by 65 hours of physical activity somewhere outside of Knoxville Catholic that you can prove with a coach's signature happened. And we have a form. It's going to be on tomorrow on resource documents on RenWeb. So if your students do competitive soccer, they do rowing, they do martial arts, outside of here, dance for 65 hours, then they'll just fill out a form. You do it 1 time. And once you get that form filled out and signed by a coach, you bring it to your counselor, and you never have to worry about that extra credit again. If your student plays a sport here at Catholic, you don't have to worry about this. We take care of that. We get all the rosters in the spring, and we get it on there. And then again, once you've had it taken care of once, you don't have to worry about it. They do. They still have to take something PE on campus. PE. Their sport covers the extra 0.5. Yeah, so wellness is 0.5. PE on campus will be 0.5, and that can happen through PE class, weight training, or dance. And then there's an extra 0.5 that happens off campus. That's a sport or 65 hours of physical activity. Great questions. Personal finance. Mandatory class. We prefer our juniors and seniors to take this. There's some occasions where it works out a sophomore needs to take it, but they just have a little bit better sense about them junior and senior year to talk about money. Maybe they have a job, so there's a little bit of more investment there. So that's just a pretty basic requirement. For the first time ever next year, we will be offering an online version of personal finance. We're only offering it to juniors or seniors who have a schedule conflict. So this is not a class you can sign up for. They cannot sign up for online personal finance. It's something that we would call in August and say, hey, I hate to say this, you've got a schedule conflict. This happens all the time. And we were getting so frustrated with students who felt bad for them that they were having to choose between this AP and that AP because they had to get this graduation requirement in. So this will only be something that is offered to a student if there's a schedule conflict. It'll be an online course taught by online KCHS faculty. We will enroll them in a study hall class during the day. We'll call it a personal finance class though, and they will work on that online class during that study hall. So they'll take it here at Catholic on their BYOD during the day, and they still get the credit. So hopefully that'll be a workaround. We don't anticipate offering that to very many because it's usually just a handful of kids. So we're going to see how that goes next year. We're pretty excited about that. And it can't be a 9th class. Just want to make that really clear. We're offering this as an 8th class. All right, wrapping it up. I'm almost there, guys. Fine art. You have to do 1 credit of fine art, 1.0. 0.5 of that has to be performing. All of it can be performing, but at least 0.5 has to be performing. So here's our performing art courses. We've got next year what's going to be offered. And again, if any of our students took things this year that aren't on the slate for next year, we still count those classes towards their graduation requirement. But we are seeing a little bit of shakeup in different things. Theater 1. Musical theater, which will be a new offering for us, musical theater. I just got to say, we went over to the theater room after school, and they were doing a run-through of their musical. It was so good. So we're really proud of what Miss Majors Rankin is doing with our kids in the finance department. So she is going to do a musical theater class, and she's also going to have an advanced theater class. And just like all of our other arts, once you get into the advanced level, we give you honors credit for it. That advanced theater does require audition. We also have dance. This year we're going to be offering fundamentals, hip hop, and dance team. And then we have band, Catholic chorale, Irish ensemble, our music theory AP class. And then last year we added broadcasting as a performing art, and that's gone really well. So they've got 4 different areas where they can get that performing art credit. Again, if they take band or Irish ensemble for the whole year, they're done with their art credit altogether. If they don't want to take the whole thing performing, they can take 0.5 visual art. And these are our visual art options. Just like the visual art department, they make it very visual for us. It's kind of a tiered system. We've got intro classes, and then kind of next level classes, and then our advanced classes. Super proud of our art studio AP. Cool thing about Art Studio is there's actually 3 AP options within it. They could take drawing, 2D, or 3D, and they can do a different one every year. So hypothetically, a junior or senior could have 2 AP art credits by the time they graduate. So we are so proud of what our art department is offering those kids. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Oh, yes.
Sorry, back on the science options, do they get recommended by both a math teacher and a science teacher for this science option?
Some classes they do. So our question is on the sciences, is it a math and a science recommendation? Sometimes yes.
They would take that
They take the form. There's two little lines on those science. It'll say math teacher and science teacher. And the math teacher's not signing off on the class. The math teacher is just giving the input of what the grade is so that the teacher can make that decision. So yeah, great point. And that happens in our English our history department as well. Sometimes our English teachers are also giving some input on grades for our history placements.
Okay, thanks. And we definitely welcome your questions, so please ask more questions as they come up. It helps us clarify. Sometimes it helps other people in the room. I usually go third in our presentations, and I find myself getting up kind of ready to say, that's a lot of information, here's some more information. And so that's kind of what I was thinking as I was getting up here today. And so I just want to remind you all, most of you know this, but there's a course description book that's going to cover all of this in detail. So all the different classes that we offer, excuse me, in detail for part of this process that, Kat and Melinda both mentioned goes on for over a month and that we put a lot of emphasis on. So the other thing that I want to kind of emphasize before I get into the electives, because it's going to be a lot of information on these slides, and I might miss a couple of points, is that the key thing is to think of the transcript itself as telling a story. And, when we have seniors sit down in our office and they're applying to college fall of their senior year, one of the key things that comes to mind for me is, what story does this transcript tell? And it's a really different story for every student. We have some students, as I begin to talk about electives, who don't have much room in their whole 4 years here to really get many electives in. They're maxing out their foreign language. I've had students who've made it to very high levels in 2 foreign languages while they're here. Students who are very math science focused and get to the highest levels in those. And the reason that we added the 8th class and added the study hall in and everything else there too is so that students could really get those core academic experiences. And there's a lot of other students that have room in their schedule to do things, and so when we meet with them sophomore year and have those sophomore meetings, we really try to focus on career, not making a decision about career, but just beginning to explore and think about that, and we base that on interests. So we want to talk to students about interests, and so when you're talking to your kids about what electives that they might take and encourage them in that way, please let them focus on interest and help them focus on how they can pick electives that are going to tell a story when they get to the end of their high school career. And so one thing that we've done to try to make that work a little bit better and to reflect the hard work that they do in their electives is to award honors credit to electives that show kind of a level of mastery in that specific art or area. So, if we look at this and we look at English, you can see in the journalism and newspaper category, an editor for journalism is now an honors level course. Yearbook editing was this year and will continue to be an honors level course. If you look down in fine arts, we've added advanced theater as an honors level course. So there's a difference in the theater sequencing. You have Theater 1, and we have a new class that we're going to have called Musical Theater. And then advanced theater is a course that can be repeated. So if a freshman takes theater, loves it, wants to be involved heavily in theater while they're here at Catholic, they can take advanced theater 3 years in a row and continue to receive honors credit and have that appear on the transcript multiple times. We had worked through some things in art over the last few years to kind of get that as a leveling situation. Sometimes students and families have questions about the portfolio class and how does that fit in? Do you need portfolio as a prerequisite for AP Art? So the answer to that is no, you don't, but a lot of times it's a really good idea. So we have juniors that take AP Art, we have a lot of seniors that take AP Art, but there's a lot of times that, I see a junior take AP Art and I think, if they had had a year in the portfolio class or a semester even in the portfolio class, that would have really helped them kind of get their skills ready so that they could have done more with what they wanted to do in AP Art. So it's something to think about. Students are going to know pretty well on that, and they're going to be able to follow the lead of their art teachers to make decisions on that too. One difference is that we've changed dance company and dance team to just the dance team. So it's audition required. To be in that class, you have to be on the dance team, and it is an honors level course. So you can see several different places where we've added honors credit there. The broadcasting program is going great. We've got a lot of activity there. So, our electives are doing really well, and I feel like this is my 4th year, and I feel like probably the biggest change perspective-wise that I can see in the courses we offer and how the students embrace them is that I feel like the way that students take on electives and become proud of how they have those experiences and choose those and have them tell the story in their transcript has taken a really good shape. Okay, so again, more electives. Some of the new ones that I'd highlight on here would be sports nutrition. It's a semester class. Healthcare ethics, and church history honors. We tried to have that class form this year. It was a year-long class. We're moving it to a semester class, so we're really hopeful that that's a class that's going to make. We're excited about it. Another thing that I would highlight in addition to those would be in the science, you can see the emergency medical responder. That is a dual enrollment class off campus. It kind of fits that same scheduling model of the English 1010 and 1020 at Pellissippi State. The English morning classes are 2 semesters. You have to be in them for both semesters. The EMR class is a 1-semester class. It is not a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They pretty much offer that class just for us, and it tends to be a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. That schedule changes each year, but we usually have it for 1 semester, and it's at the Hayfield location of the Roane State campus. So it's Hayfield Lane, but it's through Roane State Community College. I guess the other thing that I would highlight, logic and philosophy were new this year, and we'll have those back again next year. And then what we've done with business. So Marianne Merrill, who's in the guidance suite with us, has taught business for a couple of years now, the Intro to Business class. And this year she taught a dual enrollment course on our campus, INFS 1010 Computer Applications class. And the thing that I would add about that class, in addition to it being a great class, is that it is major credit in the business program at the University of Tennessee. So if you have a student who is interested in UT, maybe a pretty strong lean thinking about UT, and interested in business, that's a course that would count towards the major at UT in business. Okay, so just some technical pieces on electives, and we'll get into the course selection form itself. I'll have it up on the slide. I know you don't have it in front of you, but you'll have those soon. Your children will bring them home and have you sign them. Anything that's on that sheet is pretty much fair game, and we don't say that because we're trying to make things hard. We really say that because we're trying to make it clear and easy. And when it comes to electives, that's the part on the course selection form that tends to get kind of brushed over and ignored. So most students do a great job with it, but every year, all 3 of us get 2 or 3, 5 or 6 forms that maybe only have 3 or 4 electives on it, 2 or 3 electives on there. It doesn't even complete what would be a full schedule. We bring the students in, we try to get them in those moments to pick really well. That usually works out okay because it's a conversation, but then in other cases, maybe a student's just trying to get the form over with and just get it turned in, and they just put stuff on the back. Well, if that comes into us and it's got student signature, parent signature, if it gets scheduled for the student, there's a good chance that they're not going to be able to get out of it later. So, don't need to pick anything on the course selection form that you wouldn't be willing to take the next year. Okay, so this is what the form looks like. This is the back of it. And, you can see spots. Those 2 little gray boxes at the top are for initials, parent signatures at the bottom. And you can see the 5 choices for electives there. Some electives require teacher signature, just like all the core classes do. And I will take a quick moment when I go to the other side of the form to talk about the core classes and how that works with the teachers. But, it's all in the course description book. So if you pair using this form with looking at the course description book, it works pretty well, works pretty easy. But just the key thing is it's in order of importance. So kind of logically, first choice is going to be, what that student is most interested in taking. And so sometimes that involves, picking what's going to be most competitive and what's going to be desired by other students. But it's pretty straightforward form, but, we feel like it is, but every year we do get, quite a few forms that don't quite reflect what that student really wants to be taking. On the front side of the form, you can see there's an area for notes, a teacher signature. The teacher and the student are going to have a conversation there. So that's not a case where a teacher's going to take a stack of forms, write down a bunch of courses on them, and hand them out to students. They're going to go out into the hallway and have individual conversations with every student in their class to talk about what course is going to be the best or most appropriate course for the next year. And in some cases, that's not the end of the conversation. So course selection takes place next month. And then a lot of times what happens is a teacher might say, right now I'm going to place you in, English 3 CP. But if you come out with an A for the 4th quarter in this English class, that's going to qualify you for English 3 honors. And that'll be there in the notes section. So what needs to happen is that form comes back into us, and then it becomes the student responsibility. If that student makes the A in the 4th quarter, it's up to the student to come back ask for their form and take it back to the teacher to get it signed off. We try to make as many things as we can student-driven, and that's how we like to make a lot of stuff work, so that by the time your children are seniors, they're ready to apply to college. By the time they graduate Catholic, they're ready to go to college. Kind of responsibilities. But just remember, if in doubt, you can always ask us. You can call us, you can email us. We're happy to walk you through it again if you do have questions. But that's pretty much what it looks like. So those are your English, math, social studies, science, foreign language, all those core classes, and religion. Okay. So the one thing about dual enrollment that's different on the form, you can see the requirements. Ms. Coy talked about it earlier, 3.0, 18 on English, 19 on reading on the ACT. The one difference there is they're still going to be recommended for a class on campus here at Catholic. So they might be recommended for English 4 honors. They might be recommended for English 4 AP. The student just needs to check the box that says, I'm requesting to take dual enrollment. And as long as they meet all the different, requirements we set forth for dual enrollment, attending the meetings, registering for the dual enrollment grant, all those steps, they'll be fine to take that class. Okay, so dual enrollment, it gets a little complicated, but I'm going to try to make it pretty simple. You really just have 3 forms of dual enrollment. You've got dual enrollment on Pellissippi or Roane State campus. That's dual enrollment for dual credit. The key to that is that every student is limited at 8 classes per semester on a transcript. So if a student has 8 classes with no study hall and still wants to do dual enrollment, we're going to call that an enrichment class. They can still get college credit for it. They can send that college transcript from Pellissippi State to whatever school that they're going to go to after Catholic. But we're not going to put it on our transcript because we limit it to 8 classes just for, student mental health reasons to really only be at 8 classes there. So that's the one kind of designation. And the other thing I'd say is that we do offer, a couple of dual enrollment classes here on campus right now. We're looking to expand that. Right now it's the computer applications INFS 1010 class. So pretty much that's how it works. And dual enrollment always begins with a counselor conversation. So if your children are interested in dual enrollment, they'll mark it on that form. Come by and see us, have a conversation, and we'll make sure they get all the emails and all the communication so that they know the steps in the process. Paying for dual enrollment. Some of you may already know this, but with the TSAC, Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation dual enrollment grant, all high school students in the state of Tennessee can take 2 full semester courses completely for free in dual enrollment. So that's Pellissippi State, that would include EMR at Roane State. If a student chose to take a course at University of Tennessee over the summer as a dual enrollment student, it wouldn't be for free, but they would get that $500 towards it. So $500 is the max for that, but that's going to cover the cost of tuition and fees at Pellissippi State or Roane State. So if a student takes English 1010, English 1020 for their senior English, those 2 classes would be free. If a student, and I had a couple of them this year, also took the computer applications class on our campus dual enrollment, the first 2 would be free, and then the 3rd class would be $300 because the student would get awarded $200 from the dual enrollment grant. The one piece I'd add to that is that you have to maintain a 3.0. So if at any point a student's community college grade point average drops below a 3.0, so if they make a C that first semester in English, you lose the dual enrollment grant. It's gone. And so at that point, you're paying full price for the classes. And we do require all seniors to take both semesters. So a student couldn't make a C first semester and then say, well, I don't want to pay for that, and I don't want to go to Pellissippi State anymore. You have to continue because you need to get that full credit in English for Catholic graduation. Okay. Yeah. Summer school can count as a dual. Any courses taken on the college level can be part of that student's college transcript that can go with them when they apply to college. It's just always a question of whether or not it goes onto our transcript. And so we limit our transcript to 8 courses each semester. So that's the only distinction there. So a student can take as much dual enrollment as they want to and have those credits go with them to college. It's just a question of whether or not it goes on our transcript. Yeah. Okay, I think Ms. Punch is going to finish this.
Okay, are your heads swirling? It's a lot. I know it's a lot. Here's the good news. I'm going to be really, really short. So all I'm going to really do is just recap a couple of important things that This is the problem when you need readers, because it's like, how do you do everything at once? So bear with me. Okay, I think I got it. Okay. So just a few things. I'm going to, first of all, I want to say that I'm just in such awe of this process. As a parent, I don't think I fully appreciated this process until I started working here. This is a month-long process. We work with the kids for 1 month in planning their courses for next year. So we start with this meeting tonight with the parents. We'll meet with the kids 2 times. It's amazing. And then they'll dialogue with the teachers. They'll dialogue with the parents, because you guys have to sign off on the forms. And then they'll dialogue with their counselors. So it's not like we're just giving your kids a piece of paper and saying, hey, write down what classes you want to take next year. There's a tremendous amount of thought that goes into it. And I think that's fabulous. And I certainly didn't recognize that until I got here. So the important thing to remember is, like this says here, February 13th through the 24th, we will meet with all the kids. You're going to want to check with your students during course selection week, and you're going to want to make sure that you're talking with them about that. One thing I said is, when the kids bring the forms home for the parents to sign, don't necessarily sign that on the first day, because a lot can happen throughout the week. So wait until they're ready to turn it in, and then look and make sure that there haven't been changes made. It could come back to bite you if you sign it early. So just wait and sign it at the very end, right before they get ready to turn it in. Okay, and placements can change. So let's just say at the end of the year, your child was scheduled for a certain class, and the fourth quarter, they really, really struggled. The teachers might want to reevaluate the placement that they made, and they may want to come back to the student and make some changes. So just know that that could possibly happen. Also, Mr. Morgan referred to sometimes teachers will write on the student forms that, hey, if you make an 85 in the fourth quarter, I will consider you for honors. And so that's on the student. If the student knows that they met the requirements that the teachers put on that form, then, encourage your child to go back to the counselor, get the form, go to the teacher, and we'll definitely change that class for them. But all that really does need to be done before the summer. So just encourage them not to let that sit. And so then what happens is, once we get the forms and the kids have made all their selections, the counselors, the teachers, the parents, everyone's approved it, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter all those requests into RenWeb. In June, there will be a mailing that will go to your home, and it'll list all the classes that we are currently trying to schedule for your student. So look at that. Don't just set it on the island and forget about it, because, you want to make sure that it's accurate. We could accidentally think we hit a button for psychology and we just enrolled your child in physics. So, just double check it, make sure we're all on the same page. And then in August, we'll send you an email and let you know that the schedules are live and you can see what classes the students are in. Just a final note, and they all touched on this, but course selection really does matter. It's really, really important, even for our seniors, to challenge themselves. Pay attention to what your kids are taking. Encourage them to have a strong schedule. A strong schedule means different things for different kids. It might not be all AP classes or all honors classes. It might be adding the extra foreign language, take another year of foreign language, or go ahead and take more science than you are required to take. So it's an individualized process. Don't compare your kids, but certainly challenge your kids to give the best that they can give as they're choosing their classes. So, and one final thing, and I think that Mr. Morgan talked about this, but have your kids enroll for the classes that they need, not the classes that they hear that the teacher is great or that they can, maybe be very successful in. So don't choose the teacher, choose the course, because we don't know who's going to teach the classes from year to year, and it's just really important that they get what they need, and just encourage them to do that. So, and I think that's about it. So does anyone have any questions? I know it's a lot. Y'all are so quiet. The morning group was a lot noisier. Yes. Yeah.
February 9th. So it's actually at the printers right now. So February 9th, we'll have grade level meetings in the gym. We meet with the freshman class, the sophomores, the juniors, and they get their course description. It comes home. Always happens. And then we'll go into their classroom and spend time with them in the classroom, and then it's course selection week.
Anybody else?
Any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night.